I'm soon going to be launching the Patients Getting Paid online course that will teach you how to get paid because of your illness, not despite it. Are you interested in doing patient advocacy work, but you don't know where to start? Want to learn about how to find online remote gigs or learn to create your own? I wish somebody would have created this roadmap for me. I spent a lot of time and energy and money figuring it all out. I want you to be able to leapfrog over all that stuff and get to the good stuff, getting paid for sharing your story. In my new course, Patients Getting Paid, I'll be sharing my experience and my resources on how to create an income online that lets me take good care of myself. Want to learn how I did it? Want a list of resources, places to look for online gigs, and templated emails with what to say? It's in there. Want to hear about tons of different ways you can actually build a business while taking better care of yourself? It's in there. Want to be included in a database of chronic illness warriors so your contact info can be shared when opportunities for your disease come my way? Then get on the waiting list for Patients Getting Paid and be the first to know when it launches. Sign up now at patientsgettingpaid.com/list. Welcome to the FUMS Now podcast show, where you'll gain information, inspiration, and motivation for living your best life with multiple sclerosis. Find us online at FUMSnow.com. I'm your host, Kathy Reagan Young. Today's guest is Rodger Caudill, Head of Communications for MXTreality, an XR company based out of Seattle, Washington. Rodger has a background in anthropology and communications that influence the human-centered design principles he brings to MXTreality. As an XR studio, MXTreality has made over 100 experiences to meet client needs, further accessibility, and create interactions that are just fun. Rodger's working with the MS Center at Swedish Hospital in Seattle and local MS patients to design a virtual reality experience that incorporates creative, artistic, relaxation, and therapeutic elements. Rodger's here today to break down how MS Cart came to be, where it's going, and how you can get involved in its design. Let's go meet Rodger. Hello, Rodger. Thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Kathy. I'm excited to chat about some exciting stuff.
This is super exciting. You contacted me like several months ago, and I've been so excited, can you tell, about MS Cart ever since. It's such an interesting idea, and I think it's going to benefit MSers in so many ways. Then you sent me that video demo of the experiences that people will be able to have, and I was amazed. I couldn't stop watching it. So, okay, let's start at the beginning. First of all, in your intro, I mentioned these things, and I don't know what they are either. So what is XR, VR, AR, and MR?
So these are all different types of mixed reality, and XR stands for mixed reality, and it's going to contain the next three pieces of what we're talking about. So that's VR, virtual reality, and that's full immersion. Think like Ready Player One and Beat Saber and putting on a headset and grabbing some controllers and goofing around in the metaverse, so to speak.
Oh, cool.
AR,
all kinds of words.
Oh, yeah. There's so many. So stop me at any point in time. Like the metaverse, for example, is just what people refer to as a open source community in virtual reality.
Oh, okay.
AR, that's augmented reality. And here I think about things like Pokemon Go or Snapchat filters, things that just change realities using cameras typically.
Oh, I see. Okay, cool.
And MR is our mixed reality. And that is something like the HoloLens from Microsoft that can add things that are virtual, but also interactable into your environment. So it's a cross between VR and AR almost.
Wow. Mind blown. Okay. So where did this idea for MS Cart get started? Who came up with it? And tell me everything.
So MS Cart, the organization that I work for, the company I work for, Mixed Reality, based out of Seattle, we actually have one of the nation's leading groups in medical XR, and that's the umbrella term for the VR and AR and MR that I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And in this group, we have a few occupational therapists and a few physical therapists, and then people from all disciplines of medical backgrounds. And one point in time, we brought in somebody called Simon Gale, and he's an occupational therapist at Swedish. Simon had actually never played with virtual reality. I was there, I think, the first time he ever used VR, and he was under the impression that VR was just for like gaming and goofing around.
Yeah, me too. I've never used it.
And that a lot of that is playing games, and playing games is important, but there's a lot more. And in fact, most of what mixed reality does, we do make some games, but we do a lot of educational tools and training, so employment development. But Simon Gale, the occupational therapist who works at the MS clinic in Swedish, he went to one of our meetings and then subsequently went into our office and started messing around with some of the experiences we've built. And we've built over 100 experiences. Not all of them are virtual reality. All of them are XR. So we cover the range of using these augmented reality apps to the fully immersive virtual reality.
Wow.
And this had him thinking about, wow, I need to bring this to my clinic, because Simon Gale used to run this program called the MS Adventure program, and it got shut down due to COVID. But this program was great because he would bring anybody who signs up for this program. They would choose sort of adventures to go on that would range from like kayaking to going to concerts and going to museums and even rock climbing. So or they did skydiving too, I think.
Oh my God. No, thank you. Nope.
So many things. Nope. Yeah, I know. I see skydiving. I'm like, oh, that's pretty risky. I'll try that in VR.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So that's really how the idea started. It was Simon experimenting with VR, talking with us, and looking for a replacement for this MS Adventure program.
Very cool. So Simon said.
Simon said.
Love it. So that's why you partnered with Swedish Hospital there in Seattle. What all is there in involvement? And is that where you found patients to help in the design of the experiences?
Yeah, we found all of our patients through Swedish so far, and then on a few community forums. But we're using our testing phase here up in the Pacific Northwest through Swedish entirely. And this has been Simon and Dr. Bowen, who is the head of this MS clinic at Swedish, have been a great help in getting us feedback and getting us forms that they've sent out. This was even early on in the design process where we didn't even have anything physical yet, where we're going to folks at the clinic and asking what they want to see, what they want to do, what they want to experience in VR. And then we were making those.
Oh, I love that. Listen to the patient voice at concept. Yes. Love, love, love. Then everybody's happy. Everybody benefits. That's fantastic. I love that. Can you tell I love that? I really love that. Not enough companies do that. Yes, do more of that. Okay, so I know what's planned with MS Cart because you've let me in. So if you would please let the community in. Tell us what kind of experiences are going to be available. This is so cool.
Yeah, so we actually didn't know what we had planned at first until we sent out these surveys and we actually talked to these patients. And then we came eventually to calling this like Project MS Cart because the acronym just made sense to us given the design, even though Swedish is calling it something else. MS Cart is just what we're using for short. So MS, we all know what that means. Multiple sclerosis. And now the CART part is an acronym of activities that were chosen from these patients. So let's start with the C, and that's creativity and creative. So we have an art element where you can go into a museum that we've actually populated with pieces from MS artists, most of which are in the Pacific Northwest, all of which we've gotten from Simon and Dr.
It's so cool.
Yeah,
it's cool.
It's great. And in this art museum sort of thing, it is a multiplayer environment. So multiple users can go in and they could talk about pieces, but they don't just have to talk about the pieces. They can also interact with these tools that we have lined up all around the museum. And these tools are sort of sculpting markers. We call them pens, but they're somewhere in between a sculpting marker.
Yeah.
If
right.
that even exists.
Right. Yeah, because it's kind of puffy what comes out of there. That's the way I would describe it, right? It's kind of
Yeah, definitely. So you're like drawing these lines that stay in the environment, and you can interact with these lines and make things together and talk about these things. But you could also at any point in time just walk away from those tools entirely and just talk about some of the pieces.
That is correct. Okay, mind blown there. So this is like, I just want to speak to the MS community that's listening, whose minds might be as blown as mine was when I first heard this, in trying to conceptualize this. So picture, the goggles on your face, and you are walking through this art gallery, and you can look to your left, you can look to your right, straight ahead. It's like you are actually in the art gallery, in the art museum, right? And then you can be talking to someone else who's also having the same experience with you at the same time. So gamers you might have seen, and I don't even know any gamers, but I've seen them on TV where they're like, they've got their little microphones and they're talking to people as they're playing the game at the same time, and they don't even have to be anywhere physically near them. Same idea here. So mind blown, especially with the whole COVID situation. Talk about an opportunity to kind of go to an art museum and then be amongst others, and, this isolation that is just killing us all. Oh gosh, I'm so excited about this. I'm sorry. Go ahead. It's so great. And then you get to do stuff too, and you can draw, and you can, anyway. It's very exciting.
So that's just the creative portion of our acronym, but we have a few other letters. So in CART, we have the C, creativity. A is for adventure.
Yes.
And this was decided based upon the surveys that we sent out to patients on, like, what would you want to do in virtual reality? And we got answers like rock climbing, like hiking in remote mountaintops, snorkeling, scuba diving, etc.
Yeah.
We took the favorite responses from those, and we've put in solutions of like going down a river, and it's kind of relaxing, but it's got like some rapids and some shaky camera work that makes it more of an adventure. And then we're using right now in our demo, we're using some diving footage, but we're going to be replacing that eventually, because this is a Seattle-based solution. So a solution is what we call the projects. So you may hear me say solution a lot. This is a Seattle-based solution, and it was decided that we wanted to keep everything in the Pacific Northwest.
Okay.
So stuff that we could have done, because this is a replacement for an MS Adventure program at the end of the day. So all of our footage is now shifted to using these 360 videos that are they can be rather intense of people climbing in mountains. And I mean, I'm a rock climber myself. I just actually went a few weekends ago and did some bouldering with this 360 camera. So we have some great shots of just the enchantments, where I had a professional climber climb a huge route out there with this 360 camera, and you got a lot of footage.
Oh my gosh. So this is the real deal that's in there.
Yeah, this is coming down the pipe.
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay. So that's the adventure.
That's the adventure. And then relaxation. Also with a Pacific Northwest focus, we've gone to some like remote and serene lakes and ponds in the Cascades, which is the mountain range nearby. And we've just set a 360 camera there and let it run. So you can jump into this relaxation experience and just immerse yourself in nature, listen to the sounds that you would be hearing if you were right there. And then we're also working with some occupational therapists and MS specialists to finely tune some of these experiences, just in case there's like something that could be too extreme, like a louder noise that we can tone down, a brighter light that we can adjust. And we're doing this in tandem with our user testing phase, which is going on right now through Swedish.
Oh, good.
So it's still a process.
Yeah. But yay. It's so exciting. So I was wondering if you've looked into the benefit of having the experience of walking, for instance, like if you're normally restricted to a wheelchair, I would think there'd be, like great potential there. I know nerves can regenerate, so maybe this could like create a pathway for that. Is there any, are the doctors looking into that at all? Or has there been any studies on anything like this in the past?
Yeah, there's been a lot of studies for virtual reality and rehabilitation. A few of them are talking about like mirror neurons, and that's actually used in physical therapy with virtual reality, where you go through a movement and that movement is exaggerated in virtual reality. So let's say I broke my arm and I have limited mobility with my left arm.
Yeah.
I would put on my VR headset and then I would move my left arm across my body. And even though I could maybe move it only like directly in front of my eyesight, the VR world would show me moving it all the way around and maybe touching even my right shoulder. And this goes to developing and regenerating these neural connections that you're talking about. And we found a lot of success with that. And that success has also been echoed by the virtual reality treatment of phantom limb syndrome.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about that.
Yeah, so phantom limb syndrome is for folks who are amputees. They will sometimes experience excruciating pain in the limb that they no longer have. We found a lot of success in reconstructing that limb in virtual reality. So then the user can move it, and usually allowing yourself to move the arm or the leg that is no longer there into a more comfortable position can actually combat a lot of this pain, can make it entirely disappear.
Holy cow, your mind is just an amazing tool, isn't it?
It's crazy. And
if you can harness it, you can do a lot.
Yeah, it's definitely a brain hack. And before virtual reality was a thing, the last treatment we had for this phantom limb syndrome was just putting a mirror next to whatever limb you had and trying to trick the brain that way.
Wow.
But that became pretty impossible for conditions like double amputees.
Right. Oh, yeah. Gosh, this is such interesting stuff. So other than, everything that we were just talking about and it being fun, has there been any evidence of symptom relief for MSers in particular with this MS cart?
So for MSers, we're kind of breaking through right now. This is the first solution targeted and made in tandem with folks with MS. So while we don't have data for whether or not this helps with MS, there's a lot of data suggesting that this can help with other conditions and some even chronic pain conditions. But the road I would go down here is that it may work especially well for chronic pain. It may work for fatigue management, but it's not going to be this one solution for every problem experience. But neither is pain medication.
Yeah.
And
nothing
I think about
is actually.
Yeah. I know I just read Andrew Rice in Nature Journal in 2016, where he was saying that 75 to 85% of patients get no benefit from pain medications. So it's about finding something that helps you.
Right.
And if we can just put one more option out there that could help and that isn't addicting.
Yeah. Amen to all of that. Amen to all of that. So, okay, you're kind of in the beta stage now, right? Like people are actually trying it at the MS clinic at Swedish, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so what kind of feedback have you gotten from the MSers who've experienced it?
We've gotten a lot of overwhelmingly positive feedback, and especially from some of the occupational therapists who have seen folks use this. And I know Simon is just getting so excited. Like, we're probably 2 or 3 weeks out from getting this first phase out for Swedish, but Simon has been seeing how this testing has gone and gotten so excited that he just wants to do so many more things. And it's crazy. I wake up to a new email almost every day being like, oh, I talked to so-and-so who's been trying this, and they said that they want this in it now. And
oh my gosh, that's great. Have you heard from anyone that it kind of, what would be the right way to say this? Kind of, it could make you feel a little dizzy, because I would imagine like our balance can be off pretty typically, and we can have sort of vestibular issues. So that would be a concern of mine. Have you heard any feedback on that?
Yeah, there is a common term called VR head, or like VR motion sickness, right? And this was really common during early versions of virtual reality, and it occurred when the frame rate was altering too often and it was too slow.
Oh,
yeah,
gotcha.
Luckily for us, we can work around that by toning down sort of the processing demand of some of the visuals to make it more of a smooth experience.
Nice. Okay.
And that solves most cases. I mean, there's going to be some folks who get seasick from looking at a boat at the end of the day.
Oh, that's true. Yes.
And that's a bummer, but we're gonna try and go for as many what would be
wins?
As many wins as possible. Thank you. Wow.
Sure.
Wins,
It must be talking to me. I gave you a little cog fog. Sorry. Thanks for sharing. Is the intention to start at Swedish and then like spread to other clinical facilities and eventually be made available commercially?
So our intention is to start at Swedish. Swedish is giving us our entire phase 1 funding.
Excellent.
And then ideally we work together with other hospitals and other organizations to get this improved upon and allow for more features like integration of occupational therapy routines is something we're looking at right now.
Great idea.
But to do that, we need more backing from large medical institutions. And we also recognize that virtual reality, while it's as cheap as it's ever been, you can get the new Quest, which is the standalone virtual reality headset, for $300.
Okay.
And that will run the experience.
Less than I would have thought. Yeah.
Yeah, it's considering there's a computer and a screen in there, and it's a virtual reality. It's really cheap. But we do want to be partnering with these medical institutions, with MS groups, to also lighten the load financially.
Sure.
And make this as accessible as possible.
Yeah. And so I'm just going to hazard a guess that you're going to find that this works so well, and then the hope would be that you would expand it to other disease states.
Yeah, I think what we're looking at, so MS is first for us, but down the road, looking at things like chronic pain, and so many people suffer from chronic pain. 40% of Americans.
Isn't that crazy?
That's 100 million people.
Though. That explains a lot of why people drive the way they do, for instance. People are just pissed off and in pain.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That actually reminds me of this quote from this French author that I was reading who was talking about pain, where he says that his pain has made him deaf and blind to other people, to life, and to everything except my body.
Wow. Yeah, I can see that. You really do kind of go into yourself when you're in that kind of excruciating pain. Nothing else really exists. That's true. That's a good point.
And if we could just get somebody out of their body for a moment.
Yes. Love it. So when do you think this is going to be available? I know that it's starting at Swedish, right? So when will it be available there? And then when do you think it will start elsewhere? Or is that just based on sort of other MS clinics and whatnot signing up for it?
Yeah, so for Swedish, we're looking at a 2 or 3 week timeline for this phase
Great.
1 to reach the clinic.
Excellent.
And then the second part of your question is dependent on the MS community, right?
Yeah.
I know, like, I really want to thank Aaron Boster, who's been he's
awesome.
the lead of the Boster Center, and he's been a great help in our design process for this, and trying to put in more information about MS into this experience.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to be dependent on like clinicians like
Yeah.
him and clinics that can support us as we are supporting them.
Right. Well, so extrapolating out from that, couldn't the FUMS community support this idea by speaking to their neurologists and their MS centers and letting them know about this, and maybe forwarding a link to this podcast and saying, hey, this sounds awesome. Can you get this?
You definitely can. And I would love it if you did that, if you forwarded this podcast
Yes.
to your clinicians, to your neurologists, to anyone who has the capacity to help others.
Yeah. Because just think about that. I mean, I just think I'm obviously over the moon about this thing. I think this has so many great implications in terms of, clinical advancement and potentially pain relief and reducing isolation. I mean, there's just so many good things about this. And if I'm talking to you now, FUMSers, if you can help, I mean, this could help you, right? Because you could have it at your clinic or at your doctor's facility, but it could also help everybody else in that facility as well. So do good and spread the word, and let's get this out there, because I just think this is phenomenal, and we need to just spread the word. And with more people knowing about it and contacting them, they'll produce more and we'll all benefit. Am I on the right track there, Rodger?
That is as right as a track as could be.
Yay! Well, this is just the coolest thing I've heard in this space in a very long time. I mean, it's, cool and fun and impactful and all the things I like. I'm just so grateful that you sought me out to share it with and to share it with the FUMS community. If people want to learn more about MS CART or you or your company, where do they go?
So we're pretty active on Twitter, and that's MXTreality on Twitter. So that's MXT, then reality at Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
We can also be followed on LinkedIn, and we have a Facebook and an Instagram as well that we're a little bit less active in. But as soon as we have this solution facing the public, we'll switch more to those platforms.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to follow me personally, as I work through, I often blog about interviews that I do just to research MS.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think about like myself 6 months ago, and I didn't know a single thing about MS. I hate to admit that, but
well, most of us didn't either until we got a DX. So there's no reason you should have, but I'm glad that you learned and have helped forward this for our community. So if people want to follow you personally, where do they go? I'm
also on Twitter, and I also have my own portfolio at empathymadeeasy.com.
Love that. Love that. Well, and I love this. I love MS CART. So everybody get out there and spread the good word. Rodger, thank you so much for reaching out and for taking the time to educate us on this new tool that hopefully we can put into our own toolboxes soon. And thanks, so much for doing this for our community, for helping us all. Really appreciate it. Thanks.
Hey, thank you, Kathy. Thanks for having me.
Quick shout out to Steve Woodward at podcastingeditor.com for the fantastic work on this podcast, including editing, show notes, and ingenious ideas. If you'd like help with your podcast, whether you're just starting out or an old pro, visit podcastingeditor.com and tell Steve I sent you. Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate you listening to the FUMS podcast show. Be sure to subscribe to it so you won't miss an episode. You can do that right on the website at FUMSnow.com. While you're there, sign up for the free email list so you'll be among the first to know of any new findings in MS research, new therapies and products, as well as any blog posts and podcast episodes I release. Want to chat with others in the FUMS community? Join us on Facebook at FUMS Now. Thanks again, and don't forget to talk to the stupid disease as it deserves. Tell it FUMS every day.